there are no faithful Christians who are going to vote Democrat in November.
The legislative policy and worldview of the left, I find it morally reprehensible and demonic. I'm not talking about conspiracy theories. I'm talking about legislative action of a worldview that goes back to the gods of the Old Testament.
Well, thank you, Matt Chandler. At least he lays out an argument. Here's what they do. Here's what these pastors do. They are not pastors. They're trying to keep everyone in their congregation perfectly happy, continue going to this church, and continue tithing. Now here he's willing to admit that that Democrats are morally reprehensible, but then later on he equivocates about it. So thank you, Matt Chandler, for at least saying the biblical position.
Feeding children to Moloch. Do you know there was a whole pattern? I might be getting into another sermon later, but repetition's good. There was a whole pattern of worship with the Baal and all these other gods where there was all this sexual promiscuity that ended up in all sorts of terrible things, but then that's okay because you could just feed the god, you could feed your kid to Moloch. You could just go sacrifice your kid on his altar. So be as perverse and dirty and gross as you want, and then whatever comes of that, you don't have to bear that responsibility, just throw it into the fires of Moloch. Like, is that not what's happening right now? And I find the left to be legislating along those lines. They believe that there's a difference between a human being and personhood. Do you know what I mean when I say that? Let me tease it out just a little bit. They would acknowledge, yeah, this is a human. This is a human being, but not necessarily a person, and personhood's what matters. They do this for the unborn. They do this more and more towards the elderly and the sick and right? This is a worldview that's incompatible with what we believe as Christians. I don't feel like I'm being political here today. I think they got theological and started this. Right? Like you want to start talking about the definition of marriage? Well, that's theology. That's not, we're not talking freeways here. I'm not bringing up freeways. Like you're trying to tell me gender doesn't matter. You're pushing sexually explicit perversion on elementary school kids. You have provoked us. I'm not, and some of you right now are like, well, you're a Christian nationalist. Well, I am a Christian and I love our nation. If that makes me that, then you will not gaslight me with that, friend. And maybe you're one of those people like, you shouldn't legislate morality. And I'll tell you, all legislation is moral. Why do we have to withdraw from this conversation? Why are we the only ones being shamed for what we believe? Like, why is that? No, I can't get myself there as much as I dislike Orange Man Bad. I cannot, like this.
See, this is it. He's a Democrat. He thinks Orange Man bad. He can't agree with the Democrats about those things that are immoral, but he watches so much CNN. You'll see later on he's going to morally equivocate, like there's some sort of decision that a Christian should make where they're up in the air about something. Like maybe there's, I should know, should I vote for abortion and transgenderism, or should I vote for Donald Trump? He's a really bad guy. He's really horrible. I don't know what to do about this.
Right here. So here's where I'm going. And I know I'm frustrating some of you, and it's okay. Like I said, Bible's over here. You can just be like, I don't like him. Great, I might not like you. We'll just... So here's my plan. I'm hoping to look at policy. Now, what makes that difficult, and I don't know if you're paying attention, no one's talking about policy.
It doesn't matter if they're talking about Matt Chandler policy, right? You just mentioned, Matt, the 2 or 3 policies which have been the golden standard for Democrats. It doesn't matter whether they're talking about it. And I will say that clearly Kamala Harris has been a pro-abortion candidate, and she's talked clearly about it, wanting to return us to Roe v. Wade. What is he talking about?
Policy. What are they doing? They're trying to appeal to our emotions and whip us into a fear, anger, frenzy. This is a manipulative game that has been used by tyrannical governments across history.
You must not be watching the news, because Donald Trump talks about every single one of his policies. When people ask you, what do you plan to do about the immigration problems? I'm going to close the border and I'm going to deport illegal immigrants. That's what Donald Trump says. He's been so clear on his policy. He's been so clear on everything. And he's also been clear that he doesn't plan on pushing abortion bans into the national abortion ban, while Kamala Harris says for sure she wants to bring back Roe v. Wade. We have clear policy positions on the moral issues which he himself highlights as being important.
Make them angry, make them afraid, they'll do what we want. Don't buy it. Don't buy it. So what I can do is, listen, the Democrats have been 12 of the last 16. I think I've got a bead on their policy. And
yes, you just said you're looking for policy. You have a bead on their policy.
And then I kind of know what Trump's thinking, but I don't believe him. I don't trust him.
Trump said, I'm going to put the rest of the wall up. I'm going to close the border. He says, I'm going to accomplish what I started out for. I'm going to give another tax break. Trump is promising the same things that he did for 4 years. How could you not know that unless you watch CNN and you are yourself a liberal?
Him. I don't think he's a man of his word. He's already pulled back on things he wants.
What things? What things have Donald Trump pulled back on?
Said to get us on his side. So
what things?
Now I'm like, okay, you've got all this demonic nonsense over here, and you've got this liar guy who's in it for himself.
Liar guy? If you look at anything that Harris does, she lies just as much, and she's flip-flopped on literally everything. She has flip-flopped on literally everything. You know Trump's policy, and he's done everything he said he's going to do, or he's tried to do everything he said he's going to do. You know that Harris has lied about everything, or she's flip-flopped on policy, period. But listen to how he's equivocating. He's giving everyone space to vote for however they want to.
Who I kind of think I like his policy, but I don't know where he's going to renege, where he's going to pull back, where he's just going to do what's best for him. But here's where I'm just going to sleep like a baby, come what may.
So that's it. That's Matt Chandler. And of course, this whole sermon is about how we should trust God. He's going to take care of everything. All that's true. That's wonderful and great. But Matt Chandler, he calls abortion demonic. He calls transgender and everything demonic. But then he sits here at the very end when he's drawing his application saying, I don't know who to vote for, and that's okay. That is not okay. There are no faithful Christians who are going to vote Democrat in November.